and welcome or welcome back to my channel, Lydia Lost the Plot. I'm Lydia, and would you believe it? It is another monthly wrap up. So we have reached, you can see Cassie being an absolute menace already. We have reached the end of another reading month. It has been very exciting. We've had lots of very cool bookish news. We've had the Waterstones Debut Fiction Prize announced. We've had the Booker Prize long list announced. My reaction video is just me screaming a lot, so I mean, if you fancy that, go watch it. We've had that. We've had so many cool things happen. The New York Times released their best books of the 21st century so far, and it's just been a really fun month to be bookish. So I'm hoping that the next month in August that we get some equally exciting news. It'll be hard to top, let's just say that. But it has been a very, very fun month. So let's just get into the reading, because that's what we're all here for, right? So the first book that I finished this month was The Silence in Between by Josie Ferguson. Now, this was cracking. It was so interesting to hear a perspective from the women in Germany during the war, and sort of what the things that happened that we didn't really hear about in the news, I don't think, or that has been swept under the carpet. It's quite dark in places. It has got some triggering situations in it, so be wary before you read it. But I would say that this is well worth a gander. And if you love sort of historical fiction, particularly wartime fiction, then this is the book for you. It's so fascinating, and I thoroughly felt like I learned something when I read this. And not in like a, oh, I've learned something kind of way, like actually learning it, you know. It was interesting. Cassie's now rolling all over the bed, so if you can hear like smothering noises, don't worry, she's fine. She's just living her best life as always. Now, the next book that I finished this month was Mongrel by Hanako Footman. Now, these, you'll see that these were the last couple I had to read for the Debut Fiction Prize, and I loved Mongrel. It was so fascinating. Now, slight difficulties with getting to grips with who was speaking, with which characters was which, but the sort of multi-generational, multifaceted perspectives that are in this book are sublime, like so good that it just had you loving every single moment. And Hanako has this sort of wonderful way of exploring character without giving too much to the reader, without spoon feeding us these things. We learn more about the characters through their actions, through their choices, than we do about description or, you know, internal monologue and things like that. So I thought that was just so fascinating. And it's a great debut novel. Like, to think that this is Hanako Footman's first novel is just unbelievable. I'm so impressed by them, and I think that I will definitely be picking up whatever they write next. I did think it was a little bit overly long. We had maybe 50 pages at the end where I was like, wrap it up, girl, wrap it up. But other than that, really fun, really exciting, and just a great novel for people that love a family saga and complicated women, if that's, you know, your vibe. Now, the next book that I read in July was, have I been saying August? Who knows? It's July. It was July. Was Challenger by Adam Higginbotham. Now, if you guys have been watching my weekly wrap-ups, you'll know how much I adored this book. It was phenomenal. It's, yeah, slightly morbid. Yes. Do I have a morbid fascination with terrible historical events? Yes. Does that make me a bad person? Absolutely not. Does that make me a very intrigued reader? Yes, it does. And so I went into this knowing I would like it. It was one of those books where I was like, this would have to be a terrible book for me not to just want to delve into. And it isn't a terrible book. It is a fascinating exploration of what happened to the Challenger space shuttle. It's also a wonderful look and very objective look at sort of how events can trigger other events, and also about culpability and responsibility of big corporations and also individuals within those corporations who make these life-changing decisions day to day. I mean, if I make a mistake at work, what's the worst that can happen? Someone gets the wrong book, or I overcharge someone. I mean, it's not the end of the world. You make a mistake on a space shuttle and people get blown up. So, you know, it's serious business. So it's fascinating to sort of to delve into what happened and really start to understand, where does responsibility lie, and where do you draw that line between, you know, individuals' responsibility and corporations' responsibility for safety and for the lives of the people that they employ. So it's brilliant. It's a fantastic piece of journalism and narrative nonfiction. If you're looking for something that is just going to fascinate you, and even though you know what happens, it keeps you on the edge of your seat. There are details in this book that I hadn't heard before, and I've watched a lot of documentaries. I've got a lot of spare time. So it's actually was so enlightening, and I cannot recommend it enough. Adam Higginbotham has also written a book called Midnight in Chernobyl, and I will be getting that very soon. Let's just leave it at that, because I'm not allowed to buy any more books, she says, lying. Now, the next book that I got to in July was Eastbound by Maylis de Kerengal. Now, this is a teeny tiny little gem of a book. Oh, it's fascinating. It's brilliant. It's like strangers on a train situation. You've got two people from completely different walks of life, both trying to escape something, who meet each other on this train and decide that they're going to try and save each other. And the way that Maylis de Kerengal can get all of this wonderful world, interesting characters, fully developed backstories into what is essentially 113 pages is bonkers. I do not know how that is possible, and yet this is a fantastic and wonderful piece of fiction. If you have not got it on your radar yet, please do add it, because it is such a brilliant read. Also, it takes you like an hour to read. It's just so, it's like a Claire Keegan book, you know, when it's just this little piece of beautiful fiction, and it's like a really good starter at a restaurant. So I loved Eastbound, if you hadn't already guessed. It was brilliant. How I think it can be improved, to be honest, just more. But I'm greedy as a reader. I want more. So yeah, I would have liked a little bit more time to stay with them. But the tension in this book as well makes you feel physically sick. So if you've not got a strong constitution, maybe not this one. But yeah, I mean, my nails were bitten off, and I don't bite my nails. That's a lie, I do. Now, the next book I read was Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. Now, what do I say about this book? Without crying, because I want to. It's phenomenal, and it's highly emotional. I want to cry. I can't cry on YouTube. It's highly emotional. It's devastating. It's a fantastic exploration of masculinity, sexuality, of relationships, of the complexity of a same-sex relationship, particularly in the time period in which it's set, of consequences, of choices made, whether they're wise or not. Oh, wow. It's just so good. And this is my first ever James Baldwin. I know it took me that long. But it's just so good. Like, listen to this line. Doesn't give anything away. People who believe that they are strong-willed and the masters of their destiny can only continue to believe this by becoming specialists in self-deception. I mean, James. Do I just adore him? Yes, I do. Will I be getting to his other books? Yes, very soon. It's just, honestly, it's a wonderful piece of fiction, and it feels so ridiculously prescient, even though it was written such a long time ago. It's really accessible. If you're a bit worried about jumping into like modern classics, don't worry. I got it. I was with it from the second page. I was like, yeah, I can get on board with this. It's not difficult language. It's not hard to understand. And the characters are so well drawn. And the language, it feels very modern. It feels contemporary. So don't be scared of it. Don't do what I did, which is like, oh, James Baldwin, I'm scared. Honestly, you'll love it. So, I mean, I'd do a full review, but I would just cry at you, and nobody needs to see that. Literally nobody. Now the next one, I know I've read quite a lot this month. I'm quite impressed. Now, the next book I read was The DallerGut Dream Department Store by Miye. Now, it's also translated by Sandy Lee. Nice that they've got it on the cover. We appreciate that always. So well done to Wildfire. This is a lovely little story about a dream department store where you can go in, you can buy the dream you want to dream, and then you go home and you dream it. And it's lovely. It's really nice. It's a Waterstones science fiction book of the month, so I delved into this because I didn't know much about it and I wanted to be informed. And it's really good. Now, it's not, I wouldn't say it's my typical type of fiction. It's quite cozy, it's quite nice. There isn't really any danger or obstacles to overcome. You know, it's very safe and nice, and I think that is perfect for a certain type of reader. It reminded me a lot of like Matt Haig and The Midnight Library. Like, if you like that kind of fiction, I feel like you'd really like this. It's very introspective. There's a lot of talk about dreams and what they mean, and signs and things like that, and that was a really interesting perspective. Do I think it's one of the best books ever? No, but I do think for a certain type of reader this would be perfect. And I'm not that type of reader, but I still enjoyed it and I still got a lot from it. So it didn't feel like a disappointment to me because I wasn't expecting anything of it. I had no idea what it was gonna entail, and I was pleasantly surprised. And also I quite like that I got to try a new type of read. So many times I gravitate towards, the morbid and dismal. So it was quite nice to sort of be on a nice fluffy cloud for a bit. So if you want a nice, lovely summer read that's not too taxing, but is actually quite philosophical in ways, go for it. It's really, really fun. I enjoyed it. I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. Now, the next book that I finished was The Dangers of Smoking in Bed by Mariana Enriquez. Now, this was nominated for the 2021 International Booker Prize. Look at the cover. You see why I went for it, can't you? The first story in it is absolutely 100% terrifying. It's called Angelita Unearthed. And if you can't deal with children being freaky, be prepared not to ever be able to sleep again, because it is terrifying. Now, not all of the stories in it were super scary. There are some that are quite horrific, which I loved. There was a lot. There's one particular story, and I can't remember what it's called, about, Where Are You, Dear Heart? That's about a woman who has a heartbeat fetish. I know, it's bonkers, but honestly, I was with her. I was going with her. Honestly, I was like, yes, do those terrible things to people. So it's really, really good. I enjoyed it. I loved a lot of the stories in it. I wouldn't say everyone is a banger, so it's not, you know, completely a 5-star for me. But then again, what is? But I think that really overall, a cracking short story collection. I'd love to read, if I'm not sure whether Mariana's done any. Oh yeah, she has done novels. Our Share of Night. So I might check that out, because I'm wondering what kind of tone and style she goes for, because she does change it up throughout this. So it'd be nice to see what they kind of choose for a longer form of fiction. But gory, interesting, innovative, and a great kind of scary, horrific short story collection. It was just so much fun. It really was, honestly. But that first story, it literally makes me feel sick. And I've got children, and I couldn't look at them. Couldn't look at my own children, just in case they, you know, freaked out, scared me to death. Now, I know. Now, the last book that I read was Knife by Salman Rushdie. Whoo! Am I interested? This is Meditations After an Attempted Murder. And it's basically about Salman Rushdie's recovery and contemplations after being nearly murdered on stage in New York. And I just thought it was such an interesting perspective to have on something, to have gone through that and survived it. Now, I've not read any of Salman Rushdie's fiction, although I am quite keen to get to like Midnight's Children, but I wasn't really particularly interested in him as a person either. But I just, you know me, morbid curiosity. Someone nearly dies, a savage attack, and they're going to tell me about it. Please give me the deets. So I went into this hoping it would be brilliant, and it was. It was very good. Now, occasionally Salman Rushdie comes a little bit across as slightly, how do I put this diplomatically, up his own arse. Just occasionally it kind of falls into this slightly sort of navel gazing situation. However, I'd say the vast majority of it was absolutely fascinating, interesting perspective, really nice way that he describes the way he thinks, because he thinks like someone with ADHD. I have ADHD. I think in exactly the same way as him, in terms of sort of, he'll think about a knife and then he thinks about the knife cutting into something, then he'll think about a knife in a film, then he'll think, and it's like it goes, he like spirals into these sort of diatribes of different tangential connections to the source matter, and then he's like, oh, I've gone off on one, and that's just my brain. So as you can tell from the way that I speak, so I just thought it was just really, really good. I enjoyed the way that he there's a scene in there, well, a whole chapter really, where he talks to his assailant, who he refers to in the whole of the book as A, which I thought was nice because they need no airtime. And he makes this conversation up with him because he hasn't met him and he hasn't spoken to him, but he thinks about how the conversation would go and things that he would want to say to him and what he thinks that person would tell him back. And I thought, what an interesting kind of addition to a slightly memoir-esque book that you would put in this piece of fiction, inspired by the events, inspired by a conversation you want to have or think you could have. I just thought that was so cool. That's so like, yeah, because I do that all the time. Do you ever have an argument with someone or an interaction with someone, you think, oh, I should have said that, or you know, an hour later you think, oh, I've got to come back. Like this is like the perfect way to exercise those demons and be like, yes, this is how I feel. So yeah, I really thought it was a good and interesting memoir. I don't think that I feel any differently about Salman Rushdie as a person. I think he's incredibly strong, and like I hand it to him because, you know, he went through a heck of a lot. But yeah, every now and again I'm just like, Salman, come on, move on now, like, you know, talk about things that aren't just self-absorbed. Shh, I didn't say that. Right, anyway. I know. Right. So that was, or they were, all of the books that I read in July. I felt like I had a really good reading month. Very mixed, very various genres. I've got some non-fiction, I've got some fiction, short form fiction, short stories. And this is what I wanted to do when I started this channel. I wanted to start to just explore different things, different books from different authors, a lot of authors that were new to me as well, which I love doing. The real pleasure of being a reader is being able to find brand new authors, brand new stories that are completely new to you and that suddenly become firm favourites, or you can have an informed opinion on. I love that about reading. And so yeah, I felt like I really got into it this month, and part of it is because of you guys. The community here is just phenomenal. Everyone giving me great recommendations, everyone telling me what I should be reading, which is, I honestly, if you've got any suggestions for what I should be getting to soon, or anything that you'd like to see on this channel featured, just let me know in the comments down below and I will try and feature it. You got a favourite book you want me to read? I'll read it. You got a favourite short story collection or a book that you're umming and ahhing about and you're not sure whether to read? Let me read it for you. I'm just saying, any excuse to buy new books, but I will do that. So yeah, overall a really good reading month. I've enjoyed every moment of it. I've also had some lovely personal things happening in July which have just been phenomenal. I'm doing really well in my recovery from my illness and feeling better than I've ever felt. Because I'm looking after myself, because of you guys, because of the community, because of my friends, because of my family. It's just, everything's just getting so much better every single day, and I'm so thankful for that. So yeah, it's just been wonderful. And you know, sometimes we get overwhelmed, don't we, with the world and the difficulties that we face, but you know what, our little corner of the bookish world, it's just pure escapism and such a lovely safe space. So thank you so much for helping me create that, and I love you all. I just wanted to say that. But moving on to August. August, would you believe it? August. I have some plans for what I want to read. I have already read a book, and I am going to tell you which one it is. I have read Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy. And I'm not going to tell you much about it because I'm going to leave it for my weekly wrap up for next week. So if you haven't already, please do subscribe to the channel and check out that video when it comes out. Also, if you've got this far and you've listened to me witter on and you quite enjoy it, be a subscriber, man. Come join us. We're not a cult. Unless you want it to be a cult, we can be a cult, a cute cult, right? So Soldier Sailor by Claire Kilroy was my first read of August. I will talk about it in my weekly wrap up, I promise. But yeah, what else have I enjoyed this month? So I've loved Chapel Roan's album. Those of you that follow me will know that I have done nothing but talk about it. I've loved that. I'm really liking the whole Brat experience, let me tell you. And especially now that Charlie has collaborated with Billie Eilish. I didn't realise how much I fancied the pants off Billie Eilish. And I do. So it's been enlightening. So that's what I've been listening to, what I've been watching. I've been watching a lot of Inside Number 9. If you've not checked that out before, then please do. It's a fantastic series with Reece Shearsmith and Steve Pemberton on the BBC, and it's just phenomenally written. If you love plot, if you love great twists, if you like a bit of horror mixed with thriller, that is the show for you. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'm now watching and all of a sudden feel like I am an Olympian because I'm watching the Olympics. I feel like I'm both French and able to swim. Both of those are not true, but I am fully immersed in it. Listen, I even thought, do I do some running? And then I thought, no, best not risk it. So I'm not going to, but I am going to watch people run, which I think is pretty much exercise in itself. So yeah, that's happened. But yeah, I'm just, you know what, life is good, books are great, and I'm so excited to share with you what is coming up next. I've got some fun videos planned, and I just really do appreciate your support. So if there's anything you'd like me to read, if there's any videos you'd like to see me do, any tags you'd like me to take part in, please do comment down below and give me some ideas, because I'm so excited about this channel. Thank you all for your support, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye bye.